I asked if I could volunteer for the school carnival. They said, just enjoy the rides. So I replaced all the rides with better ones. The dismissive laughter still echoes in my ears as I write this story. My name is Maria Santos, and 6 months ago, I was just another single mom in Austin, Texas, trying to make ends meet while raising my 8-year-old daughter Emma. I never imagined that a simple offer to help with our elementary school's annual carnival would lead to the most transformative experience of my life. It was a sweltering Tuesday afternoon in March when I walked into Lincoln Elementary's main office. The Texas heat was already brutal, and summer hadn't even arrived yet. I'd just finished my shift at the local diner where I worked as a waitress, my uniform still smelling like bacon grease and coffee. Emma had been talking non-stop about the upcoming spring carnival for weeks, and I wanted to do something special for her school community. "Excuse me," I said to Mrs. Henderson, the school secretary who'd been there since before I was born. "I'd like to volunteer for the carnival committee. I have some experience with event planning, and I'd love to help." Mrs. Henderson barely looked up from her computer screen. Her perfectly manicured nails clicked against the keyboard as she spoke. "Oh honey, that's sweet, but the carnival committee is already full. We have all the help we need from our regular parent volunteers." She paused, finally glancing at my waitress uniform with barely concealed judgment. "You just focus on enjoying the rides with your little one when the day comes." The word stung more than I cared to admit. I'd moved to Austin 3 years ago after my divorce, determined to give Emma a better life than the one we'd left behind in El Paso. I'd been working 2 jobs while taking night classes in business management, dreaming of someday opening my own restaurant. But apparently, none of that mattered to the established social hierarchy of Lincoln Elementary. As I walked Emma home that day through our modest neighborhood of small ranch houses and chain-link fences, she chattered excitedly about the carnival. "Mama, Jenny's mom is bringing cupcakes, and Tyler's dad is setting up the ring toss game. What are you going to do for the carnival?" I forced a smile. "Well, Mija, Mama's just going to enjoy spending the day with you." But that night, after Emma fell asleep, I couldn't shake the feeling of being dismissed so casually. I'd been volunteering at Soup Kitchen since I was 16. I'd organized church fundraisers and community food drives. I'd even coordinated my ex-husband's company picnics for 5 years before our marriage fell apart. But none of that seemed to matter to the carnival committee. Over the next few days, I learned more about how things really worked at Lincoln Elementary. The carnival committee was made up entirely of what the other parents called the Golden Circle, wealthy stay-at-home moms whose husbands were lawyers, doctors, and tech executives. They lived in the upscale Westlake neighborhood and drove luxury SUVs to school pickup. The committee chairwoman was Patricia Williams, a former marketing executive who'd given up her career to focus on family and community service. She lived in a sprawling mansion with a circular driveway and had been running the carnival for 6 consecutive years. Her son Bradley was in Emma's class, and he never missed an opportunity to remind the other kids about his family's wealth and status. The more I heard about the committee's plans, the more frustrated I became. They were planning the same tired carnival they'd done every year, a few inflatable bounce houses, some ring toss games made from recycled milk jugs, and a cakewalk featuring store-bought desserts. The total budget was barely $3,000, most of which would go toward renting the bounce houses. "It's tradition," I overheard Patricia telling another mother at pickup. "We don't need to reinvent the wheel. The children are perfectly happy with simple pleasures." But I knew Emma and her friends deserved better. These kids worked hard all year, dealing with standardized tests and homework and all the pressures of growing up in an increasingly competitive world. They deserved a celebration that would create magical memories, not just kill a few hours on a Saturday afternoon. That's when I decided to take matters into my own hands. I started by researching everything I could about school fundraising and event planning. I spent my breaks at the diner reading articles online and taking notes in a small notebook I kept in my apron pocket. I learned about grants available for educational events, about local businesses that supported community initiatives, and about creative fundraising strategies that could turn a small budget into something spectacular. The breakthrough came when I discovered that the Austin City Council had a community enrichment fund specifically designed to support educational events in underserved neighborhoods. Lincoln Elementary qualified because over 60% of our students received free or reduced-price lunches. The grant application was complex, requiring detailed budget projections and community impact assessments, but I'd written similar proposals in my business classes. I also learned that several local businesses were required by city ordinance to contribute a certain percentage of their profits to community initiatives. Most of them struggled to find worthy recipients and would gladly support a well-organized school event. Working late into the night after Emma was asleep, I developed a comprehensive plan for what I started calling Emma's Dream Carnival in my head. Instead of a few bounce houses, we could have professional carnival rides. Instead of store-bought cakes, we could have local food trucks representing Austin's incredible culinary diversity. Instead of cheap ring toss games, we could have interactive educational stations where kids could learn about science, art, and technology while having fun. The total budget for my vision was $15,000, 5 times what the school usually spent. But I'd identified funding sources that could cover every penny without requiring a single dollar from parents or the school district. The challenge was implementing this plan without the committee's approval or even their knowledge. I started by reaching out to my network from the diner. Miguel, who ran the food truck that parked outside our restaurant on weekends, was immediately interested. Maria, mi amor, you know I love supporting the kids. If you can get the permits handled, I'll bring my truck for free and donate 10% of sales to the school. Carlos, the manager at the party rental company where I'd worked weekends during the holidays, was equally enthusiastic. You've got a good eye for what makes events special, Maria. If you can guarantee payment, I can get you the premium carnival package for half price. Slowly but steadily, I built a coalition of supporters. The local community college offered to bring their robotics club to run educational demonstrations. A group of high school art students volunteered to face paint and create balloon animals. The fire department agreed to bring a truck for kids to explore. The hardest part was getting the necessary permits and approvals from the school district without alerting Patricia's committee. I scheduled meetings during my lunch breaks, speaking with principals and district administrators about my alternative carnival proposal. Most of them were impressed by the detailed planning and diverse funding sources, but they were hesitant to upset the established parent hierarchy. Finally, I got my break when I met with Dr. Sarah Martinez, the district's community engagement coordinator. She was a young Latina administrator who'd grown up in a similar neighborhood and understood the importance of giving kids experiences they'd never forget. Maria, this is incredible work, she said, reviewing my proposal packet. The educational components, the community partnerships, the cultural diversity, this is exactly what we should be doing. But Patricia Williams has a lot of influence with the school board. Are you prepared for the backlash? Dr. Martinez, I'm not trying to hurt anyone or cause problems, I replied. I just want to give these kids something special. If the committee wants to be involved, they're welcome to help. But if they don't want to participate, that's their choice. She smiled and stamped the approval paperwork. The carnival is scheduled for April 15th. You have 6 weeks to pull this together. Good luck, Maria. These kids are lucky to have someone like you fighting for them. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. to make phone calls to vendors before my morning shift at the diner. During my lunch breaks, I'd meet with community partners to finalize details. In the evenings, I'd pick up Emma from after-school care, help her with homework, and then spend hours updating spreadsheets and coordinating logistics. Emma noticed that I was busier than usual but didn't ask too many questions. She was excited about the upcoming carnival and trusted that Mama always had everything under control, even when I felt like I was drowning in details. The secret couldn't last forever. 3 weeks before the carnival, Patricia Williams cornered me in the school parking lot after pickup. Her perfectly styled blonde hair and designer workout clothes made me acutely aware of my faded jeans and tired expression. Maria, I understand you've been making some calls about the carnival, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but you really should have come to me first. We have everything under control, and we don't need any complications. I'm not trying to complicate anything, Patricia. I'm just trying to add some additional activities and sponsors to make the day more special for the kids. Her laugh was sharp and dismissive. Honey, you clearly don't understand how these things work. Event planning isn't just about making phone calls and having good intentions. It requires experience, connections, and financial backing that I'm not sure you have access to. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone to show her the confirmation emails, I've secured permits for 3 professional carnival rides, 4 educational stations, 6 food trucks, and entertainment from local high school groups. The total value is over $20,000 in donated goods and services. Patricia's expression shifted from condescension to shock to anger in a matter of seconds. You had no right to go behind the committee's back. This is completely inappropriate and potentially dangerous. Do you have liability insurance? Do you understand the safety protocols? What happens when your amateur planning results in a child getting hurt? Everything has been approved by the district and properly insured, I replied calmly. Dr. Martinez has all the documentation. That's when Patricia's mask finally dropped completely. Listen to me very carefully, Maria. You may think you can just waltz in here and take over, but this community has standards. We don't need your kind of help, and we certainly don't need the chaos that follows people like you wherever you go. The racism in her words was barely veiled, but it was the phrase, people like you, that hit hardest. I'd heard those words before, from landlords who wouldn't rent to single mothers, from employers who assumed I was less capable because of my accent, from teachers who had lower expectations for my daughter because of our address. The carnival will go on as planned, I said quietly. The children deserve it. We'll see about that, Patricia replied, her voice cold as ice. The next morning, I received a call from Dr. Martinez asking me to come to the district office immediately. When I arrived, Patricia was already there, along with 2 other committee members and the school principal, Mr. Thompson. Maria, there have been some concerns raised about safety protocols and insurance coverage for your carnival additions, Dr. Martinez said diplomatically. Can you walk us through your safety planning? For the next hour, I presented every document, every permit, every insurance certificate, and every safety protocol I'd developed. I'd anticipated this challenge and had prepared accordingly, drawing on everything I'd learned in my business management classes about risk assessment and liability management. Patricia tried repeatedly to find flaws in my planning, but I had an answer for every question and a solution for every potential problem. The high school robotics demonstration would be supervised by certified teachers. The food trucks all had current health department permits. The carnival rides were operated by licensed professionals with perfect safety records. Finally, Mr. Thompson spoke up. Mrs. Santos, this is really impressive work. I have to admit, I'm amazed by the level of detail and professionalism in your planning. Patricia's face was red with frustration. This sets a dangerous precedent. If we allow parents to just bypass the established committee structure, we'll have chaos every year. With respect, Mrs. Williams, Dr. Martinez interjected, Mrs. Santos didn't bypass anything. She applied for and received all proper approvals through official channels. The committee is welcome to participate in the enhanced carnival activities or continue with your original plans alongside them. That afternoon, I got a call from my supervisor at the diner. Maria, I hate to do this, but I'm getting complaints about your schedule lately. You've been taking a lot of long breaks and leaving early for appointments. I need to know you're committed to this job. My heart sank. I knew Patricia's husband was a regular customer at the diner and a friend of the owner. It wasn't hard to figure out how pressure was being applied. I understand, Mr. Johnson. The carnival is in 2 weeks, and then everything will go back to normal. That's what I'm hoping, Maria. You're a good worker, but I can't have employees who aren't fully focused on their responsibilities here. The message was clear, drop the carnival project or lose my job. That night, Emma found me crying at the kitchen table while reviewing vendor contracts and payment schedules. Mama, what's wrong? Are you sick? I pulled her onto my lap and held her tight. Mama's just tired, Mija. But everything's going to be okay. Is it about the carnival? I heard Mrs. Williams telling Bradley's daddy that you're trying to ruin everything. The fact that these adults were discussing their conflicts in front of the children made me angrier than anything else that had happened. Emma, sometimes grown-ups disagree about how to do things. But Mama is working very hard to make sure you and your friends have the most amazing carnival ever. I know you are, Mama. You always make everything special. Her faith in me was both heartwarming and heartbreaking. I'd put everything on the line for this project, my job security, my standing in the community, my relationship with other parents. If it failed, Emma would see her mother as someone who made big promises but couldn't deliver. But giving up wasn't an option. These kids deserved better than the mediocre celebration that had become the accepted norm. They deserved to feel special, to experience magic, to have memories that would last a lifetime. The final 2 weeks were the most stressful of my life. I had to coordinate delivery schedules for Carnival equipment, finalize performance times with various entertainment groups, and manage last-minute changes from vendors. All while maintaining my work schedule at the diner and pretending everything was normal during Emma's school pickup and drop-off. Patricia's committee continued their own planning in parallel, treating me like I was invisible whenever our paths crossed at school. They'd positioned themselves as the official Carnival organizers and spread rumors that my additions were unauthorized and potentially dangerous. 3 days before the Carnival, disaster struck. The company providing the main Carnival ride called to cancel, claiming they'd received concerning information about the event's safety protocols from an anonymous source. Without the centerpiece attraction, my entire vision would fall apart. I spent the next 18 hours making desperate phone calls, reaching out to every Carnival equipment company within a 100-mile radius of Austin. Finally, at 11 p.m. the night before the Carnival, I found a company in San Antonio willing to bring a beautiful vintage Ferris wheel on short notice. It would cost extra, eating into the small contingency fund I'd built into the budget, but the Carnival would go on. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear, with temperatures in the perfect 75-degree range. I arrived at Lincoln Elementary at 6 a.m. to oversee setup, my stomach churning with nerves and excitement. Emma was spending the morning at her friend Sophia's house so she could experience the surprise along with all the other kids. By 8 a.m., the transformation was underway. The vintage Ferris wheel rose majestically in the center of the playground, its colorful cars gleaming in the morning sun. Food trucks lined the parking area, filling the air with the scents of tacos, barbecue, kettle corn, and funnel cakes. High school students set up interactive science stations where kids could launch rockets and create slime. The robotics club arranged their demonstration area with working robots that could dance and play games. At 9 a.m., an hour before the official opening, families started arriving. Parents and children stopped in their tracks, staring in amazement at the spectacle before them. This wasn't the tired carnival they'd expected, this was a full-scale festival that rivaled anything they'd seen at the county fair. Patricia and her committee arrived at 9:30, their own simple setup of bounce houses and ring toss games looking pathetic in comparison to the larger celebration surrounding them. I watched Patricia's face cycle through shock, anger, and what might have been grudging respect as she surveyed the scene. Mrs. Santos. Dr. Martinez appeared at my side, beaming with excitement. This is absolutely incredible. The kids are going to lose their minds when they see this. At 10 a.m. sharp, we opened the gates. The first wave of families flooded in, and the reaction was everything I'd dreamed it would be. Kids ran from station to station with pure joy on their faces, their parents following with expressions of amazement and gratitude. Emma appeared with Sophia's family, her eyes wide with wonder as she took in the scene. "Mama! Did you do all this?" "We all did this, Mija. The whole community came together to make it special." She threw her arms around me, and for a moment, all the stress and conflict of the past few weeks melted away. This was why I'd fought so hard, for that look of pure happiness on my daughter's face and on the faces of all her friends. The carnival was an enormous success. Kids rode the Ferris wheel over and over, their laughter echoing across the playground. They learned about solar energy at the science stations and created masterpieces at the art booths. The food trucks sold out of nearly everything, with all proceeds going back to the school for future educational programs. Local news crews arrived to cover the story, interviewing families about the spectacular event. Several parents approached me throughout the day to express their gratitude and ask how they could help with future school events. But the moment that meant the most came around 2 p.m., when Patricia Williams walked up to where I was coordinating the cleanup volunteers. "Maria," she said quietly, "I owe you an apology. I was wrong about a lot of things. This is the most successful school event we've ever had, and it's because of your vision and hard work." I looked at her carefully, searching for signs of sarcasm or manipulation, but her expression seemed genuinely remorseful. "I was threatened by you," she continued. "By your energy and your ideas and your ability to get things done. I've been running these events for years, but I was just going through the motions. You reminded me what it means to truly serve this community. Patricia, there's room for everyone to contribute. The bounce houses and games your committee provided were important too. The kids loved having options. She smiled sadly. That's gracious of you to say, but we both know the truth. I let my ego and my insecurities turn me into someone I don't like very much. I hope you'll consider letting me help with next year's carnival. I'd like to learn from you. 3 months later, I was offered a position as the district's community engagement coordinator, working directly under Dr. Martinez. The job paid twice what I made at the diner and allowed me to use my event planning skills to benefit schools throughout Austin. Patricia and I have become unlikely allies, working together on various school initiatives. She brings institutional knowledge and established relationships, I bring fresh ideas and community connections. Our combined efforts have resulted in programming that serves kids across economic and cultural lines. Emma is now in 3rd grade and doing better than ever academically and socially. She's learned that her mama can move mountains when necessary, and more importantly, she's learned that every person has value and every voice deserves to be heard. The Lincoln Elementary Spring Carnival has become an annual tradition that draws families from across the district. Last year's event raised over $30,000 for educational programs and featured partnerships with 15 local businesses and community organizations. But the real victory isn't the money raised or the media coverage or even the job promotion. The real victory is the lesson Emma and all her classmates learned that day, that magic doesn't happen by accident, that someone has to fight for the things that matter, and that ordinary people can create extraordinary experiences when they refuse to accept good enough. If you've made it this far in my story, I want to ask you something important. Have you ever been in a situation where people underestimated you because of where you came from or what you did for work? Have you ever had an idea that others dismissed, only to prove them wrong through sheer determination and hard work? Please share your experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear about the times when you fought for something you believed in, even when others told you it was impossible. Your story might inspire someone else to take on their own impossible project. And if this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. We're here to share stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, of underdogs who refuse to give up, of communities that come together to create magic for their children. Remember, you don't need permission to make a difference. You don't need a fancy title or a big bank account or someone else's approval. You just need to care enough to try, to plan carefully, and to persist when others try to discourage you. Sometimes the most important battles aren't fought in boardrooms or courtrooms, they're fought in elementary school parking lots and community centers and places where children's dreams are either nurtured or neglected. Sometimes changing the world starts with changing a single Saturday afternoon for a few dozen kids. That carnival taught me that I didn't need to wait for someone to give me a seat at the table. I could build my own table, invite everyone to join me, and serve a feast that nobody would ever forget. The best part? Emma still talks about that carnival as one of the most magical days of her childhood. And when she's older, when she faces her own moments of being underestimated or dismissed, she'll remember that her mama once turned, "Just enjoy the rides," into, "Let's build better rides for everyone." That's the real legacy of fighting for what you believe in, not just the immediate victory, but the example you set for the next generation about what's possible when someone refuses to accept limitations imposed by others. So the next time someone tells you to, "Just enjoy the rides," remember this story. Remember that you have the power to build better rides, to create better experiences, to make magic happen for the people you care about. Because sometimes the most revolutionary act is simply refusing to settle for good enough when you know extraordinary is possible.